Hi, welcome back to my podcast. My name is Mr. Doug Ross Williams. I'm here at the capstone in Liverpool Hope University and I'm studying a PhD. I think you've been following my journey for the last year and a half, and my second year in my PhD is actually amazing. I thought it would be harder, but I'm actually quite enjoying doing a PhD. I think my guest here as well is doing a PhD, probably on his last year. We'll soon find out. So if you've been following my PhD, it's around neurodiversity and the creative and performing arts. And also I'm digging into creative learning v didactic learning, which I'll be having a symposium in October, which anyone watching this project or program or PhD, please come along. It's on Saturday the 5th of October at the capstone. If you're a teacher, if you're involved in ADHD in any way or neurodiversity, there'll be a lot of key speakers involved, so please do come along. Message me, send me a PM, and I'll put you on the list. So today's podcast, I've been told by my guest he's never done a podcast before. So there's a first for everything. So please, ladies and gentlemen, can I welcome at my podcast today, Mr. Matt Rutter.
Hello.
Hello, Matt.
How are you?
You're a bit short for words today.
No, all right.
We're soon going to drag those out from you, those words of stuff. So me and you, Matt, have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And my first project, Weekend Arts College, or WAC, was my first venture into kind of working with kids.
Yeah.
But especially kids that were probably failing at school. You remember NEETs, kids that are not in education. But we came up with a project at the weekend that I believe really did engage the kids and gave them a second chance. Reflecting back on how we started WAC and your first experience, or maybe even going back before that, people don't know about you, your drama, your physical theatre. Can you enlighten people about your teaching and what you're doing?
Yeah, so I kind of spent a lot of my 20s doing a bit of performing. So a theatre company called Big Wow that we worked with, which was kind of a comedy physical theatre company. And alongside that, I was a teacher at was Liverpool Community College, which is now City of Liverpool College. But yeah, so I kind of always had both a teaching and a professional element to whatever I've done, really. And then after that, worked at the Everyman Theatre for about 12 years, running a programme called Young Everyman Playhouse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, so done. Yeah, so that's kind of my journey into teaching and theatre, really.
And anyone not knowing what WAC was back in the day when we launched, we did some trips up to London. But in any given weekend or a day, can you let people know how you utilised like drama and physical theatre to engage with young people and the kind of methods you use?
Yeah, so I think certainly back then it was, potentially young people who hadn't done much drama previously. Young people who actually responded to working physically rather than thinking and looking at script. And devising's always been kind of a core element around the physical theatre as well. So just basically letting young people create and make stuff themselves. So I think that's, rather than going, this is the script, this is how you do it, do that, act that, stand there, it's kind of always been very much about empowering them to come up with ideas, be creative, and make their own stuff, kind of say what they want about the world. So I think it was that's what it was. And then it was very much kind of trying to develop individual things within those young people. So whether they were particularly into singing or drama or the physical element of it. So we made loads of really, I think quite interesting stuff. And we took stuff here. We did loads of performances in Liverpool. I remember that trip down to London was fantastic, and seeing those young people see what London WAC was about as well. So so I think it was kind of letting them create.
Okay, I'm going to dig deeper, Matt, because people watching the think, drama, physical theatre, improvisation, but for me, when I'm talking about all of the creative arts and how it actually engages young people, I want to dig deeper. So when you say physical theatre,
Yeah.
in your words, Matt, how do you break down what is physical theatre and how you believe it works with younger?
Well,
young
I think
people?
now it's sort of it's kind of spread across all sorts of theatre now. So I don't think there's the split like it used to be. I think, and now it's become something that is quite. You see it in all sorts of theatre, like mainstream theatre. Like it's. But it used to be. It came from that idea of play, of clowning, of yes, like acrobatic stuff in there. So certainly companies like Frantic Assembly really brought it to a mass audience really, and I think nowadays you see it in huge swathes of theatre, but it was very much came from that idea of bit play based
And
creativity.
so Matt, I've watched your sessions, your session when I come in, and I just go around and do my rounds, at work. Anyone not watching, when the kids turn up and maybe they're unruly or how do you engage with your expertise, Matt, when there's a rowdy group of kids coming in out of control?
Unrelenting positivity. I think.
Unrelenting positivity.
Yeah.
So how when they're coming in and you're about to start the session, I've watched you, but anyone not knowing how you engage, how do you get the kids to focus and to start their session in your experience now?
I think it's probably very different then, like compared to now. I think now you're sort of a bit wiser and long in the tooth to know you can kind of identify what kids need what. But I think certainly back then, I think just try to make it really safe and open so that they don't feel like they're put on the spot. They don't feel like they're having to create the best piece of theatre or the best work, but just that there's a sort of safe to fail atmosphere. I sort of talk about that a lot in stuff that I do, that I want young people to know that they could just try something and it doesn't matter. And I think if you take that pressure off, that's when really good stuff gets created. So I would say that. I'd say making sure that you talk to each of them, get to know them over time. But I think very much, introducing yourself to each and every one of them. I know it sounds
No.
quite
I
simple,
think that's
but
really, really important, Matt. Now, me and you discussed the topic of neurodiversity and being on the spectrum, whether it's ADHD, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, or any of those elements that that we talk about. And I think you mentioned that you probably believe that you are neurodivergent. I think you definitely are. But some people, I think it's hard sometimes to, when you hit 50 or 40, to sometimes confront something that you've always been maybe a bit different. For you, Matt, as I said before, in the realization that probably you might be neurodivergent and how you see the world, and in using those skills to engage with other young people. Do you think now, in terms of you knowing what you know about hopefully yourself, your youngsters as well, you have my son is will say that, in fact, I think all 4 of my kids are on the spectrum of some kind of neurodiversity. Now, whether that's just the norm is hard to know, but I do know that it's a bit hereditary. So from your knowledge now, where you stand, and your understanding of neurodiversity, does it help you when you work or you engage with kids that you think might be on the spectrum?
I think because I've worked with young people who are neurodiverse for so long now, that it's whether that's in hospital settings, whether that's in classroom settings, whether it's alternative education, I think it's seeing and understanding how that creativity can really be a driver for them, because I think, I mean, it's a generalisation, but I tend to find that they can be highly creative and see things in a slightly from a different angle, and I think for each individual person, it's about finding how to unlock or work with that young person. So it has to be individual to that person, how they see the world, how they respond, how they create. It's not something you can put out as a blanket neurodiverse.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's going, okay, so your brain works like that, which means you find it really easy to create spoken word, or you find it really easily to think of pictures and ideas, or you're really creative and can make visual content, or so I think it's it's really trying or finding how people work. So for instance, sometimes with young people who've got ADHD, it's not about finding if they were doing a monologue, for instance, if they were creating their own monologue, I wouldn't look to pin it down totally. So I wouldn't go, these are the exact words that you've got to say. Like, even if they've created them themselves, I'd be like, okay, so these are the 6 different things you need to tap into your flow, your rhythm, your whatever, to get that out, and leave it a little bit loose. Whereas if it was someone potentially who needed structure, you might go, okay, great, well, this is exactly what I want you to say in this exact order. Yeah, if they in terms of autism or being autistic, then that might help them. But it's very much balancing who they are and how they learn. So I think someone said you know one neurodiverse person, you know one neurodiverse person, because it's all entirely different. Everyone's individual.
I think what you just broken down there over the last year and a half, it's pretty well, I'd say the last 20 odd years of my work, knowing that the structured way where they try to force kids to learn in school is archaic. And I do believe that in this day and age, allowing kids to learn sometimes at their own pace, as you mentioned, or allowing them to learn creatively rather than, we'll explore that word didactic later on in today, but you've touched on quite a lot of things. I think your experience, Matt, in terms of, like, especially through drama and physical theatre, which I know can be very engaging with kids who sometimes need to express those feelings. And I found I love dancing, which is a physical expression with music, but I also really like drama and physical theatre, because I could get out my emotions and how I was feeling, or express my thoughts more creatively. Whereas when I was sat in the classroom forced to learn in specific ways, I was mentioned to earlier, I really struggled with that structure. And I think you broke that down quite eloquently by the way you said that you should allow, especially people who are neurodivergent, the flexibility to learn.
Yeah, totally. And because some people love that, being like given a list of things to learn and ticking them off and writing it down. Like some people, and that's great.
Yes,
and then they become brilliant in whatever field they are, whether that's, I don't know, science or English or art or whatever. But equally, there's some people who that just won't work with, and if that's what you're being asked to do constantly, it's difficult. You say it affects your self-esteem, it affects what you think or what they think about themselves, whether they think that they're successful. So I think that one size fits all just doesn't fit with
you work in the free schools, don't you, like Harmonise and I don't know if you work at Everton Free School and some of the other academies. I have worked in most of those, and their approach is to be much more flexible with teaching. Do you think there's a need for the paradigm to change within the normal schools of how they're trying to squeeze all kids through one method of learning? From your knowledge of what you've seen now.
On a personal level, I do. But I expect that's I sort of have no real understanding of how difficult it is to run a school, or how to deliver that curriculum, because I've never it's been a long time since I've sat inside formal education as such. But I do think there's probably more interesting, more creative, more impactful ways that we could look at delivering.
Why do you think, you just mentioned this, structured way in schools of delivering the curriculum, why do you think that they're mainly stuck in this specific way of why it needs the curriculum needs to be delivered
It's
in this way?
yeah, because it's a bit of everything. It's I think it's been having a prescribed curriculum, so schools are just that's what it's handed down by the government, national curriculum. I think there's probably a bit of flexibility in that, but they're all being forced to try and hit targets, whether that's SATs, whether that's GCSEs, whether it's all based around that success. So if they don't do that, then they'll be, to be blunt, punished for it by a...
It's a shame because you've got so many young people, unfortunately, being failed at school because they can't learn. And I've seen it across the board as so many kids either being homeschooled, going to free schools, or a variety of different methods of learning. Yeah. This is why I'm saying I'm doing my PhD, which hopefully, will explore, and give that opportunity for other academics to see that there are, creative ways of which we should allow kids to learn.
I would expect as well that nearly every teacher in the country wants to do that, like to be able to have their more of their stamp on it, to be able to be creative, to do. But I think probably a lot of them are quite just tied into that structure.
Do you know what, folks? We're having an amazing discussion with Mr. Matt Rutter, physical theatre and drama. We're going to have a little break, and we're going to come back when I've got some really interesting questions around neurodiversity and performing arts. What is your knowledge and understanding of neurodiversity?
Well, I think it's a broad range of, if I apply it to my sort of work, a broad range of different qualities and different ways of seeing the world, really. And I think it can be challenging for young people to engage, but it can also be a real... it can really help them be massively creative and come up with ideas that potentially others might not. I think there's an energy with it that if you can harness that energy in the right direction, it can be incredible.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think within the sort of teaching that I do, I would say that's the thought of it, really.
Yeah, I think that's a good breakdown. I mean, I know definitively, me being neurodiverse in terms of boundaries and always pushing boundaries and not taking no for an answer and so forth. I think that as you say, if channeled in the right direction, of course you get the ones that channel the wrong direction, end up in prison or doing really naughty things. Yeah. But I think at the right time I focused and found dance, really got engaged with the performing arts. But not being able to learn in the school setting, but learning really creatively, I flourished. So when you kind of say, if you find that passion where you can nurture neurodiversity, I think if you look at probably the most, creative people, Einstein and a lot of those people that were on the spectrum, probably, it was because they were neurodiverse and thought outside the box. They didn't fit into society normally, usually. Most society probably found them odd. But I think they were embraced by, with the way they pushed boundaries and experimented. And I think that is part of being neurodiverse. And maybe neurotypical people. I'm not saying we're like ants and you've got worker ants and you've got ants that do certain specific tasks within the community. And I do believe within humans you will have builders, creatives, and a variety of different types of humans that are really gifted in certain fields of areas. And I'm not saying we're ants or bees, but if you look at that analogy, that you'd have certain bees that are really good at doing specific things. I think if you look at humans, probably it's always been that way, that you've got some humans that have always been very creative and risk takers. Otherwise, if you didn't have the risk takers, we'd never move forward. It would always be safe. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense to anyone watching at home. It's okay to take risks, but safe risks, Mark. Matt. Right, my second, I called you Mark.
That's all right.
All right, my second question to you, tell me about your work, Matt, and how it tackles and supports the development of people that are neurodivergent over the years that you've worked.
Yes, I think it's sort of touched on it before, of just, I think it enables, I'd hope it enables young people to feel valued, and that they can be creative, and that they understand the strength and qualities that they have. So I think it'd be that, and that again, that individual thing of finding, taking time to find what their interests are, their skills and their strengths, and kind of try to push that together in something that makes sense to them and can enable them to be brilliantly creative, really. So I think it's that sort of balance of self and qualities.
I like that, man. Really like your answers today. Another question, and we're digging deeper. How does drama and physical theatre support neurodiverse people to understand how to navigate day-to-day life with all of its elements that neurodiversity brings?
I think a big thing is the confidence that it can bring. I'm a firm believer in theatre, physical theatre performance, and working as a group, as a collaborative, as a collective, of people working together can, one, it enable people to feel more confident in themselves and take that into their lives. It enables them to figure out that they can talk to people, communicate with others in a safe space that again will let them get better at communicating with people in day-to-day life. I think it enables people within groups to see each other's strengths, so they go, oh, that person's really good at that. Oh, that person's good at that. Oh, they're so good at organising this. They're so good at setting. So it gives everybody a chance to show what they can do. So I think that's, and then I think if you're doing that in theatre, physical theatre, whatever, I think you then naturally take that into life.
I love that answer. It's probably the best answer I've heard virtually on my show, man. You're going to get 10 brownie points. No, because it is. I mean, I've seen, especially you and only a few other drama physical theatre use those skills. And I've seen kids start maybe a year before, shy, not engaging in things. And I've seen the work that literally you've done with kids at work, hundreds of kids, and that development. And I've seen those young people many years later, and they thanked me. And I've never probably told you and Hayley and many people that they thanked me for what Weekend Arts College did for them, or the performing or creative arts, should we say, how it gave them the skills to go into life and become positive people in their day-to-day life. And I think that is they may not go and become a drama teacher or a singing teacher. I mean, you know that. Some may. Some may go run with the ball and become performers. But I think the key thing, which what you just said, it's giving them the skills to go and engage with day-to-day life where maybe schools can't provide that, unfortunately. And I think if I could provide or build a template that supports the school with a creative platform, and maybe it is that a weekend once a week where kids can go and develop those skills in order to be able to understand more in school, might be co-productive, or there might be space, as I've been trying to say, for there to be a change in the paradigm, and that there is creative arts schools for kids that learn creatively, and there's a more kind of didactic schools for those that like to learn with structure. I'm not saying structure per se, but in a didactic way. And for me, that would be probably the perfect scenario. So I am working on that on my thesis, and hopefully that'll bring about change, Matt. Shall we just dig a bit deeper into some more questions?
Yep.
Okay. What are your thoughts on creative learning and didactic learning? We talked about this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously massively biased because it's where I've pointed my whole career, and I love the moment where you see young people being creative and starting to take ownership of what they do. So for me, that moment where someone says something on stage, connects with an audience, creates an idea, a sketch, a character, a thought, a moment where it's theirs. It's their thoughts, their feelings, their creativity, and when they show that back to an audience and get a response, I just love that, because it's enabling them to use their voices.
That's amazing. And what do you think the counter argument is with, from your perspective, if kids either can't learn didactically, and what you think about didactic learning? What's your...
Like I said before, I think for some people it's probably great and exactly what they want to do and hear, but it's not for everyone, and for those kids that it isn't, it's really hard to just be put in a space and told to do this, and it's just not going to work, and all it does is chip away at their confidence. Whereas actually, I think we should be a bit better as a society at going, okay, so that's not going to work. Yeah. Let's try it this way.
Let's try it this way.
If you applied it to a business model, if somebody was running a business and just kept not working and not working and not working for customers, it'd fold, because they'd just go, I'm not buying that product because it doesn't work. So it's like
not rocket science.
No. So yeah,
it's not rocket science, folks, and I keep saying that. I mean, I've had some really, really great guests on here, but I think we all point to the same direction in terms of moving forward and changing the paradigm, that you can't force kids to learn in a specific way. I know maybe it worked in the past, but clearly it's not working at the moment. Anyway, Matt, thank you for those moving responses. We're going to move on to our final two questions. Here's my second to last. Moving forwards, what are your thoughts on the best methods to support neurodiversity?
I think it's getting better. Because I think it's something that's far more recognised, far more talked about, far more understood. I think it's about putting in adaptations for young people to let them learn in different ways. I think it's about recognising their strengths. That's kind of what I said before. But I think it's I mean, in an ideal world, it'd be lovely if there was a kind of review of education nationally. Do you know what I mean? Especially with the new government coming in, who hopefully might be a bit more open to different ways of learning. It'd be really interesting to shake it up in a very, very big way, and to kind of take away some of that business elements that's drifted into education of
agreed,
of quotas, of having to hit certain targets, of not of taking the power of creativity away from individual teachers.
I think that's really great, and also treating kids like they're commodities, and that's a bit questionable. I'm going to drift off just a little bit off the question, because this is just a little bit off the final question. In your 20 years, Mr. Matt Rutter, of your work with young people, and you don't have to mention a specific name, because but what is the most impactful kind of thing you've seen in a young person that touched you or made you feel, wow, this is why I love what I'm doing, but also the change you've seen in a person? So you don't have to mention that, but what if you had to think about something in your thing that really moved you with the physical and drama, and how it really does?
I think there's a few, and I think there's the general thing that you can see in certain like cohorts of kids that you work with, so certain groups. So definitely there's groups of young people who I've seen develop brilliantly together, and get more confident and be creative and create brilliant bits of theatre. But then I think probably some of the more individual ones is where put a lot of time into one young person who you know has been kind of dropped by, not dropped, who hasn't fitted into society, or the education's not working for them, and it's those real long growth things of somebody that it might take you 6, 7, 8, 10 years, but by the end of it you can go, that person was not engaging, and they are now in a drama school, they are now a teacher, they are now, and there's or they have now recovered well enough and are well enough to want to be a performer, or so there's probably 4 or 5 of those young people. I mean, not so young anymore. but to see them do that, and you know it is definitely something that you've helped with, or helped them to figure out. I think
that's quite emotional for me, because I know that was me when I was about 13, failing at school, nearly going to be expelled, didn't feel part of the school thing, until the dance teacher said, we're starting dance this year, and we noticed that you like dancing, if you want to come along and do some dancing. And my school, I think, was the first school in London, Acton Burley, that started to use the performing arts. We had a big influx of Caribbean and multicultural kids into that school in North London, and I think the arts, or music and so forth, they thought would engage with us in more ways than some of the methods they're using. So dance was added to the curriculum, drama, and music. I was in heaven.
Yeah.
Once that was added to the curriculum, but it wasn't all the schools. So I think whether it was just a godsend, a blessing, but that definitely saved me from self-destruction, in terms of maybe not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because where we're at now, that drama's been stripped out of so many curriculums, just like until so suddenly you're expected to suddenly decide to do it at GCSE when you've had no experience of it within school. I think it's an absolute, and it's not just drama, it's all of the arts. And you just like, how do those kids find out that that's what they want to do? It's all right if you're, with all the will in the world, you've got some parents who can identify that and push you into drama clubs, dance clubs, whatever. But for some kids, they don't have that opportunity. So how are they going to know that they might be one of the best performers going? Do you know what I mean?
And that should always be an option with kids. And I keep saying that. I think we're really digging really well today, Mr. Matt Rutter, and I really enjoyed, some of the answers you've been giving me. Really pleasure in having you on board. So, final question. This is something I learned of someone, a creative. If you had a magic wand, Mr. Matt Rutter, what would you change in terms of the education and supporting young neurodiverse people? If you could just wave a wand, what would your magic solution be?
Just loads more money. Loads more money to be invested in education. Like we should be looking at teaching classes of 15 kids rather than 30. Do you know what I mean? And just suddenly the ability to get inside those young people's heads, understand them, cater for them, enable them to find their own little route would be huge, because they've brilliant teachers all over this country, and they're just in a position where it's a personal view where they're having to teach so many kids. How can you? Do you know what I mean?
30
if it was,
kids a lot,
if it was half the size, classes of 15, you'd know those kids. You'd be able to put enough time, effort, care, rather than being under just crazy amounts of pressure.
We had that number in whack, about 15, no more than 15.
Yeah,
it's too much above that.
No, I wouldn't want a group more than 18. I just don't know. It's just.
It's 30 is a lot. I think that's great if you waved your magic wand. I thought you would have said you'd have had more drama and physical theatre.
Well, I think I would, but I think that would just naturally happen. If there was bigger investment
more money,
in it, and the class sizes, it would just enable way more stuff to happen, and just a focus on arts. And I think there's a real disparity about investment in the arts and in schools and delivery, and then what we actually get out of it, which is brilliant theatre industries, brilliant film industries. Like we're really pretty good at it in this country, and it's like, but you go, there's no balance.
There's real dry. We do know that the creative media kind of sector is the fastest growing sector in England. We know that, music and dance and media and the creative side, it's the fastest growing industry. But yet it doesn't seem that they're supporting or churning out within the school sector, the supporting of young people to support that growth of creative and performing media and arts, which is a shame. As you say, in fact, if anything, you just said, Matt, they're actually, a diminishing drama and dance and singing in schools, which is a bit concerning. But I suppose, as I said before, I think it's always been an academic kind of country where, you've got, if you looking about the top end down, you're talking about Eton and all of the top universities, it is unfortunately mainly based on the knowledge pool. And I think I mentioned this to a colleague I had in the last show, that it could have easily been the other way around, where the creatives were leading on how kids were taught, which I think would have been a better supportive mechanism if we were a more creative industry in terms of all the universities that were really championing creative ways of learning rather than the academic way. But I suppose that will shift in time, Matt. So, ladies and gentlemen, I really do want to give Mr. Matt Rutter a warm round of applause for having him on my PhD. I think drama and physical theatre, I hope today you've learned how integral it is. I think, Matt, you've broken down the importance of how drama and physical theatre can develop and work with self-confidence, with teamwork, all those key work things that I think I put in my funding bids along the years, because of the impact that those words that you clearly know have an impact on people. So if you were to leave everyone at home watching you and drama and physical theatre, any last things of advice for anyone thinking about?
I just think it's always good to give it a go. Just try it. So some people will love doing theatre, acting, physical work. Some people won't, but just give it a try.
Give it a go. You hear that? If you haven't tried drama or physical theatre, give it a go. You never know. You might be the next big superstar. So listen, stay tuned. I've got some more wonderful guests coming on over the next few months and also next year to support my thesis and my continued work on my PhD, creative learning for neurodiverse young people. And don't forget, if you are interested, come along to my symposium on Saturday the 5th of October at Capstone. You're welcome to come along if you're schools, tutors, teachers, ADHD practitioners. Please do come along and support this amazing symposium. Okay, take care. Matt, thank you.
Thank you.